So, welcome to another episode. Today we have Patrick Boylan on. So, welcome to today's episode, Patrick.
Thanks, Javon. Thank you so much for having me.
We had a quick chat a few minutes ago, and we're just talking about obviously your background and what you're doing at the minute, your projects, etc. And to be honest, I'm a little bit jealous in some ways of someone creating an app. It's something that I wanted to do since I was a kid. So I'd love to create an app, write a book, well, anything that you see someone else do. It's that sort of I could do that too, and it's that not. I think jealousy is maybe the wrong word, but it's the sort of respect of someone actually going out and creating something. So, what made you sort of decide to do that?
Oh my God. First and foremost, you are writing a book right now, aren't you? You're writing your second book. Am I wrong about that?
It's now it's my second novel, but it's my fifth book overall.
Come on, man. Come on. That's amazing. That's really fantastic. I would never be able to write a book. I don't think I have the like attention span or the story to tell. I've got nothing interesting to say when it comes to a fictional novel. But I do have something interesting to say when it comes to music education. And so that's why I created MuseFlow. It's basically, I took 8 years of lessons and I hated every second of it. Piano lessons. I didn't like the rote memorization aspect of learning songs first. And I didn't like that I was repeating the same thing over and over and over to perfection. It just got really boring for me, really stale very, very fast. And that is and turned out that I learned that that is the case for the majority of music education students out there. 85% of them quit after high school because they cite frustration with the way that they're being taught or boredom with the way that they're being taught.
That was me. I did piano to grade two, I think. Found it absolutely horrendous. There was some songs that I enjoyed playing, but it's like you say, there's a teacher sat just there, and you're following the music, you're reading it, and you're getting corrected, and it is kind of boring, and it's all scripted. This is the song
Mm-hmm.
you're going to play, and then as you said, it's just the memorization of the song. You're no longer reading the notes, and it's very methodical and monotonous. It's not something that's and this is the funny thing about it. Like you said about books and music and art, they are creative endeavors. And the way that it's taught makes it actually invert on itself, where it's no longer, it doesn't feel like a creative endeavor, which is kind of the point of the thing, surely.
So interesting. Ain't that the truth though, right? It doesn't it's teaching you the technique of doing the artistic task. It's not inspiring you to continue to create. No, it's teaching you technical things that you can repeat, ideally to help you tap into the creativity faster and more efficiently and better, in the long run. I think about this in terms of like Taylor Swift talks about this. Paul McCartney talks about this. They say, the more that I wrote songs, the easier it was for me to tap into that well of creativity. And so when I wasn't fun or when it wasn't fun for me or when I just needed to finish an album, because I had learned those techniques of being able to tap into my creative well faster and more effectively, that whole column of like energy, being able to drive down into a topic and write a song about it, because they've been doing that thousands of times. The gears are more oiled in that regard, right? And so they're able
It's
to do it faster.
it's that time of immersion, isn't it? The longer that you spend on a particular activity, the more that you understand it, and the more that you can actually have a creative mind within that. If you're a mechanic, for example, and you work on cars all the time, you understand the car so well that you can start playing around with adding turbos and putting on exhaust pipes and things like that because you actually understand what the net benefit's going to be rather than when this car comes in with this diagnostic, you change this part for this part, and on you go. And as you said, it's
Right.
great initially, but after a while, you want to expand your horizons beyond that, surely.
You need to become a generalist when it comes to your craft, right? And so, they talk about that all the time. And they're like, well, when I don't want to write an album, but I need to write an album, when I don't feel like writing songs, but I need to finish this song, I'm able to use the techniques that I learned through the process of creation. I'm now able to drill down into my well much faster and more effectively when I don't want to do it, right? And so I'm like, well, that's great. Those are the techniques that you can employ to start to create better, right? and more effectively. And so I do think that like we're teaching the wrong skills though when it comes to music education. We're teaching how to learn songs. And sure, we all want to learn songs, but what about the core fundamentals at the end of the day? Like what about the parts that you're saying? You know, a mechanic goes in there and they say, oh, that's a messed up problem right there. What are all the other things that I can solve around it to fix that problem? It becomes more flexible. You become more creative if you learn the parts individually, and then you can string them together in any way you want to, you know?
It's not, yeah, you remind me of the Charles Bukowski poem of "Do you want to be a writer?" He says, "Unless it comes bursting out of you, you're not ready." Now, I think it's said a bit tongue in cheek in respect of to get that level of inspiration if it just comes bounding out of you. I get it. It's one of those where I think you've got auto zoom on.
Gosh darn it. I do,
Yeah,
don't I?
yeah.
There we go. It fixed
It,
it.
it's one of those where it could happen where you get that burst of emotion and that drive internally just to do something, but maybe that's something that you work towards. Maybe you don't always have that, as you said. Maybe it's you understand you have to do something, and it's working on it enough that. So let's say you worked on something for 7 hours. For six of those, you might not even be in flow state. You might
Mm-hmm.
not be in a position where it's just coming out your fingertips. You've got writer's block or musician's block or artist block where you're stuck there and you're sort of just using those techniques that you've got in order to keep plodding along and having discipline so it gets finished. But isn't there a chance that you can maximize that flow state in order to create the best thing possible? Because there's that whole graph, isn't there, of flow state that it has to be difficult enough but not too difficult in order to get that level of flow state. Is that correct?
Absolutely. It's where the challenge meets your skill level, but the challenge needs to be just a little bit outside of your skill level so that we're challenged a little bit, but not too challenged to where it's frustrating and not less challenged to where it's boring. No, we need that perfect amount of challenge to keep you engaged.
So how do you do that within music?
We find where you are in terms of skill and we place you just right outside of it, you know? Or we give you the playground and we say, go forth and explore and experience what you want to experience. Eventually, if you play long enough, you will get better. And we gamify the playing and we give you new novel music you've never seen before that never repeats. So we keep that novelty there, right? That so you're not learning the thing by rote. You're not learning the new note or the new rhythm by note. No, there's a couple different elements that go into that. You know, one is the novelty of the music. Number two is that we give you the playground and say find where your skill matches the challenge, and then you keep progressing from there, and you eventually find that flow state where that challenge meets your skill level. Yeah,
I like that because it reminds me of I don't know if you've heard of the school, like the type of school that is called a Montessori school.
we take a lot of inspiration from Montessori.
Literally, it reminds me of that where they just give you a room, as you said. There's some building blocks. There's a piano there, whatever uh, number of things that you can use to play with, but in a way that's going to align with the individual. Because if you're a sporty person, you're going to end up on the football pitch or the basketball court, and you're going to
Right.
be playing naturally. And actually, you might start off with that, realize that you're not that good at it or you don't like it that much, and you move on to the next thing, and there's going to be that element of this is what I feel right doing. It's the whole different types of intelligence, isn't it? The linguistic, the musical, the interpersonal, intrapersonal, whatever that may be. And it's
Mm-hmm.
about that discovery. And I like that you're doing that within the remit of music itself, not just as a larger scale. Because as you said, if it's the pick this song and learn this verse, it's not
Right.
really very interesting for that individual who isn't wanting to learn those songs because the problem is there's so much variety of music out there and it's generally that you start with classical pieces first and a lot of people don't like classical, although I think that we should encourage people to learn classical music because if less and less people are playing classical music, and I think it's a real backbone of music itself and society, because I think that listening to that as opposed to sort of, let's say, aggressive rap music puts you into a better mental space. So if you're getting up in the morning listening to stab, stab, smoke, smoke, murder, murder, it doesn't really put you in a good mind state. So I think playing music and listening to those harmonic vibrations and tones and things like that is actually going to put you in a better standpoint as an individual, I think.
It's such an interesting thing because I like on one end I agree with you, but on the other end I'm like we should never uh predetermine what somebody should or shouldn't play. I don't think that sort of prescriptive element of music education is beneficial in any regard. I think classical music teaches you some very core things that are necessary, including hand dexterity for for piano students. You need to be able to play separate things in your hands, right? And we look at some Bach fugues, right? And they are completely different in both hands. You're playing four different melodies at the exact same time and you only have two hands. How do you do that? To learn something like that is so critical for all the other genres out there. So so classical music in that regard is very important when it comes to those certain techniques. But if you never want to play that music ever again in your life, why force somebody to do that? If you only want to play pop music or rock music, or if you only want to play some rap tunes and you want to get the beats down on the piano, or you want to actually start learning how to play a synthesizer, or you want to learn how to play a drum kit, like great, we can get you there by teaching you the core rudiments of that genre. We're not doing it yet. Just, I'm not trying to promise anything too much for MuseFlow yet, but later down the road, that's the goal, is find a genre that you love. Let's lean into that. And then let's teach you everything that is necessary for you to be able to play that genre and maybe even a little bit more. Find the things that overconnect with jazz, with rock, with pop and classical even. Some rap music literally uses classical tracks, they rip from it and they sample that. And so you're like, great. What if you want to play that little ditty on not literally ditty, of course, but like you want to play the little ditty of like some little classical little riff that they use and they sample it in a rap tune. Let's teach you that. So I always think following the passion of the user, following the passion of the student is very important. The prescriptive element is rough. It's a little tough on me.
It's mad because I rap music was my first music genre that I enjoyed when I was
Mm.
young. And then you branch out into music, you're like, wow, hey up, Tupac, you're telling me that Tupac didn't make that song? Or whoever, because they've taken that background from a song from the 60s. And I was like, no way, I thought he made that whole beat. And then you go to other rap songs and it's the same. You're like, what is going on? Is there anything sacred
Is there
anymore?
anything sacred?
It was outrageous. But there's literally, like you say, it's the whole thing. And then they add a bass to it and they add a few drums to it and they speed it up, they slow it down, etc. But coming back to what you said about the understanding what type of music someone wants to play, I don't know if you saw that Ed Sheeran wrote to the UK government to talk about exactly what you're talking about, that music is taught in a way that's not going to encourage and get an influx of people that are going to become artists and performers because of the way it's taught.
Mhm.
Not everyone wants to play classical music. Most people want to play, as you said, rock, jazz, whatever. So he actually passed something in, I don't know if it was in Parliament or through letters, whatever, to try and change the music curriculum in the UK because
That
for
is so
him, that's
cool.
what made him big, was playing his own and normal songs, isn't it? So
It was his own exploration, right? And so we see a lot of times we see pop artists or rock artists, right? Rappers. They see what music education is in a classical regard, right? They see the regular pedagogy that we have in schools and in private teaching, and they say no, thank you, and they go self learn, they go self teach, and that's where their real education comes into play. That's where my real education came into play. My education, I learned the basics in lessons. I took 8 years of lessons and I hated it. And I didn't like the repetition. And so after my teacher retired, my real education came from my own exploration of my parents' sheet music. I ended up taking these little bits from my parents' sheet music. They had a bunch of musical theater scores. And so I grabbed these little bits that I really enjoyed playing. And what I did was I put those little bits inside of an improvisation and I threw them in all these different contexts. I put it in the right hand. I put it in the left hand. I inverted the phrase. Maybe I played the melody backwards. Maybe I played it. I changed the time signature instead of it being in four. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I put it in 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? Or I put it in 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. I put it in a different key. I slowed it down. I sped it up. There's so many ways you can manipulate a little concept, a little phrase. Cut to, I did that for 3 years. I did that for 3 years. I took these little bits and I improvised around them. And then so cut to college. I was the only piano player who was an acting major. And all of these musical theater nerds were coming over to me being like, hey, Pat, I want to learn this song. I want to practice this song. I want to learn this song for an audition. And I'm like, throw it in front of me. Let's see if I can play it. Right. And they put it in front of me. And lo and behold, I could play it. I'd never seen that song in my life. How can I do that? And I realized in that moment, it was because I had taken the core rudiments of musical theater, of what made that genre up. I put those into all these different musical contexts through my improvisation so that by the time I saw that core rudiment in another song, I could play it verbatim. So it's that type of flow, that type of iteration, that type of exploration that I think we're missing in music education these days. And if that can be the vehicle for music education, for you to learn the core concepts of how to play your instrument, if we can get you into flow state, and if we can get you into this sort of exploration aspect, then that's game. That's a game right there. We've tapped into this creation, this element. And anyway, that's ultimately what MuseFlow is. We get you into that sort of flow by using novel music that you've never seen before. We take the core concepts and put that into that music that you've never seen before, that never repeats. And so instead of improvisation, we're using what is called sight reading, the act of reading music at first sight, as the engine of our curriculum.
It's the whole Wu Wei thing, isn't it? Non-forcing. Alan Watts talks about. He says instead of sailing against, you tack it basically, to tack a sailing boat so that you're using the wind in order to make instead of you actually rowing against the waves. It's the same sort of thing. If you can look at the position and make it fun, interesting, and try and make it as least frictionable as possible, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Where it doesn't feel because we tend to have these days a thought that in order to get better, you have to feel stressed, and it's you
Right.
know you've got to be working, grinding hard every day, and that's how it has to feel for progress. That's not true. Children play, children make mistakes when they speak for the first time, and they learn fluency pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
They're not afraid to make these mistakes. They're not afraid to go and touch strings and ask questions and play and get burnt and fall off, and they learn so much so quickly through that exploratory play that you're talking about, rather than the rigid format that people always want. They want, oh, Guru, please tell me what the next 10 steps and I will feel fulfilled or I will be
Right.
billionaire. Unfortunately, it's the exploration that created that in the first place that people want to then try and emulate. But it's good that you're trying to encourage that exploration through what you are have designed or co-designed essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that I think I love it. Thank you. And I agree. I think that sort of exploration, failure is going to be a part of life, whether you like it or not. Failure is going to be a part of exploration. Failure is going to be a part of play. It is. It naturally is. We try to walk on a little on a beam through the playground. We try to walk on this little beam, and there's gravel and whatnot that you could fall onto if you get off of that beam, right? We walk on that beam and you're falling off constantly, but you're not hurting yourself because it's still play, right? And you've got a safe net to land on, right? It's not going to hurt you. But still, you're falling off constantly. You're falling off constantly. And eventually, through play and exploration, you are able to stay on that beam. You're just like, I wish that failure wasn't so inherently negative. Failure is going to be a part of the journey of learning something new, whether you like it or not. You're going to fail. And so if we can destigmatize failure and put it in sort of an element of play and exploration, that's gold. That's gold.
You have to fail. You have to fail in anything, and I think it's slightly different though with boys and girls and playgrounds because boys will always would always play games where there would be a winner, where there was rules, football, basketball, girls would tend to play games that required cooperation, hopscotch, skipping. There's no winners or losers. I think that there's a little bit of a difference in some respects, but ultimately it's the game of playing, whichever realm that is. If there is a winner or a loser, or if there's not, there's there's something that you can learn within each of those things. Is it teamwork? Is it actually the skill of kicking a football, or is it the community of playing hopscotch or skipping? There's something to learn in that exploratory phase, surely.
Absolutely. And I still think that regardless of the context of that play, whether that's a game that's set up with winners or losers, or it's a cooperative game that's set up with social dynamics and interaction between people that are playing that game, there's still failure and there's still success. You know, you have a little toy that you want to interact with this other toy that this other person has, right? What if you engage in that activity in a very aggressive manner and you say, play with me now, I want to play? That other person is not going to receive that well. So they're going to disregard it and they're going to move on. And so it's through that interaction, even though it's a cooperative game, it's through that interaction that you're, and that failure of that interaction, that you're learning something new, right? You're learning, oh, maybe this aggression, this forcefulness is not going to help. And so you pivot, so you adjust. Regardless of the game, there's still failure and success. And so again, if we can destigmatize that failure, that's gold.
I don't understand why people have such a an issue with failure though, because always use the example of world champion boxer. He's been punched in the face more times than either of us,
Yeah,
and he's
right.
still better than us. And this is what people don't understand. That I do judo, for example. The coach has been thrown more times than I have, but he's better than me. It's it's one of those things, and it's I think it's a psychological thing because obviously failure doesn't feel great that you haven't won, and you know you it can affect your self-esteem, your self-worth, self-belief, all of that stuff. But actually, if you're looking at the micro, then that's going to be the case. Oh, I lost today. Oh, you know,
Micro.
micro.
Yeah.
But if you think of it at the macro, okay, I'm thinking in 10 years. Okay, let's say use my books personal example. Let's say my books are shit, terrible. I'm 5 books in, and let's say they're still terrible. There's going to be a point, maybe book 50, maybe book 1,000, whatever. Okay, whether I'm going to be alive to write that, that's not the point of this. There's going to be a point in time where my writing ability is awesome. There's going to be a point in time where my podcasts are better than they were. I mean, I've listened back to some of my early podcasts, and I'm like, wow, sound quality needed sorting out. You know, the way that it flowed maybe wasn't right. But that's because I have a macro view on failure is the short term, and you have a long term objective. Is there something that you feel within the music side of things that people tend to quit because they haven't got past that point of failure enough to be able to, as you said, I could just. He said, oh, you said, oh, let me try and play it, and you could just play it, and you were like, wow.
Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, thinking about the long term is absolutely very important. But also, if you're just enjoying writing, if you're enjoying it, but you're terrible, who cares? You enjoy the process of writing. That's so important, right? Is to recognize, look, maybe the way that we're teaching piano or the way that we're teaching any instrument isn't fun, isn't inherently fun. Practicing the same song over and over and over to perfection is not fun for the majority of people. Okay. It takes a very specific type of person to enjoy that process. So what if we can include play and include exploration, include fun? What if we can include that? What if that actually was ingrained in the process of learning that instrument instead of this discipline that is required to learn the instrument? I think if we reframe the entire context of the learning environment into a game rather than discipline, then we've got something there, right? Because if you enjoy simply the process of playing, if you enjoy simply playing the music that is shown on screen and it's great and it's beautiful and you're being affected by that and you're having a really great time, but you're messing up constantly, it doesn't matter if you're messing up constantly because then all that matters is that you're enjoying and you're playing. That's all that matters at the end of the day. So if you enjoy writing for the sake of writing and exploring a character or exploring a story, if you enjoy that process, regardless if you're good or bad, it doesn't matter. You've won at the end of the day. So, yes, long term, but I'd also say let's reframe the setting of the learning. Let's reframe that environment to be a game and be something that is inherently rewarding and playful.
But what about those, again, to play devil's advocate, what about those people who, so let's say, for example, most people who play a musical instrument, they do it for their own um, love of it or how it makes them feel or the fact that they want to be good, whatever. But maybe there's some people out there that do all of these things. They play a musical instrument and they need to be good. And the reason they need to be good is that they are playing that instrument purely on the validation of other people. So they want to go to a concert and they want to play and they want it to be awesome because they want the applause, they want the love because it's going to make them feel good. What would you say in that situation? That because maybe they don't enjoy the process as much. Maybe they want to be good straight away in order to get that validation in that setting.
I feel sorry for those people. I really do. I can see it in the entertainment industry here in LA. I see two different people, two different groups of people that come to Los Angeles. One of the people to get famous, all they want is the edification of other people. They want the applause. They want people to say, "You're amazing. You're so good." And that's all they want. They don't care about the craft or the artistry of making a story. They don't care about that. Then you get the other people that want to just make good art. They don't want the fame. They don't want the fortunes. Well, of course they do, but like they're not doing that for the sole reason of creating the art. Okay. They just are doing it because they love to create and they love to act. They love to write. They love to produce. They like to create art. So I see it in two different camps and I feel really bad for the people that are only in it for the applause. I really, really do, because you're not enjoying the process. You're not enjoying the process of creating and the process of learning. And like, what a shame that is. I would say to anybody that is interested in getting into an art form for the applause, don't do it. Find another way. There's probably an easier way. I'm being completely honest. There's probably going to be a much easier way for you to get applause than learning an instrument or learning how to act or whatever it may be, learning how to direct. There's an easier way. So please, like, find another way. I don't think you're going to find the happiness and the joy that comes from that applause in the art form as easily as you can with other methods.
It's like Thierry Henry, the footballer, if you know of him, soccer player.
No, no, I
Um,
don't.
a very good player, played for Barcelona, Arsenal. Classed as probably the best player to ever play in the Premier League. Um, they asked him a question, and they always do with famous people, don't they? If you weren't, if you weren't a boxer, what would you have been? Oh, I would have been a racing driver. And what
Right.
would you have been if you weren't a tennis player? Oh, I'd probably have been a footballer, whatever, whatever. They asked him, what would you have been if you weren't a professional footballer? He says, an amateur footballer.
Yeah.
And and that just for me just sums up exactly what you just said. It wasn't about that for him. Even though he became the best player to probably play in the Premier League across his time, whether the peak of him was better, that you can argue that doesn't really matter. But that answer was just awesome because for him it wasn't about the fact that he was a professional footballer and that he was classed as being that good and got the big moves and the money. He just loved playing football.
Yeah. He just loved doing it. That's, I think, what the beauty of art is that you can enjoy the process of doing and enjoy the process of creating and enjoy the process of failing, regardless of success, right? That's the beauty of it all. And so you shouldn't get into an art form if you're in it for the applause. Absolutely not.
And the thing is that when people say this, oh, you should enjoy doing it, people take that as literal. I'm not enjoying every single second of this, therefore I need to stop doing it. But most of the time, it's a collective. You enjoy doing it on the whole. There's going to be points, if you're a football player, a soccer player, you're going to get up in the morning, see it's pissing down in the rain, your legs are sore, your arms are sore, and you know that you've got to do this fitness workout and you can't stand it. But you know that later on after the session, you're going to be in technical, you're going to play on Saturday and you're going to love it. There's not going to be anything you do in life that every single thing is just amazing, 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 amazing. It doesn't work like that. Yes, you might
Oh
write
no.
writing the book, but you may hate editing it, going back and through and doing punctuation and grammar, reading the same book seven, 8 times, because that's what you're gonna have to do, unfortunately. You're gonna have to read your
Right.
book
Yeah.
seven, 8 times, literally, to get it how you want it, whether it's good or not. Again, as I said, it's irrelevant. It's this is the process that you need to follow. And there are bad and good parts. So even within the music side, there's going to be parts that people love and there's going to be parts that people hate. But what would you say to them in terms of going through the parts they don't like? Is it just push past it? Is it try and reframe how you look at that part? What would your sort of thoughts be on that?
Try to find the joy regardless of the process. Look, I hate a lot of different no, I'm not going to say hate. I can't say that because music is music at the end of the day and I utterly love music, right? But there are many gigs where I get a set of songs that are going to be played for the showcase and I'm the accompanist and I'm playing for all of these singers and I've got to play the songs that they want to sing, right? I At the end of the day that's the job and I'm getting paid to do that. Okay? I would say maybe 3 or 4 depending on the genre of the showcase, or the concert or the cabaret, whatever it may be. 3 or 4 of those I really just don't like. It's just not my jam. It's not my vibe. It's not a song I'd normally like to play. And so what I end up doing, what I have to do to get myself engaged with the process of playing the song so that I can do it for the singer who is singing it and they can feel supported by me. I have to find something in the process that I enjoy. Just a little bit, just a little element, right? Something that I enjoy, whether that's a literal note and a word, one of that, right? This note comes at the exact moment that that word should be spoken in that sentence or that line, that melody, right? Or and I play that song for that note specifically, right? I maybe emphasize it because the singer doesn't want me to emphasize it or it's not supposed to be emphasized, but I do it because I love playing that one specific note with that word in mind in the context of that whole song. You got to find that bit. You got to find that in that gets you excited about the thing or the process, right? Editing, for example. Maybe you absolutely hate editing and you're not at the place right now where you can outsource that. Okay. But you absolutely love the process of writing. To get your writing to a place where it can be put out there and you're finished with the product, you've got to go through the editing. So try your darndest to find that one little thing, that one little spark of joy in that process that engages you with the editing as a whole. Find that spark. Hopefully you can convince yourself. I know I'm actually pretty darn lucky that I can find bits of any song. Maybe I do not like the song or I hate playing it or I'm really bad at it, right? I got to find that spark of joy. I do. I feel very lucky that I can find that spark of joy. It's going to be a lot harder for a lot of other people, but hopefully hopefully that'll help anybody who hates a certain part of their craft, of their practice. Maybe there's a certain element or maybe there's a song that they have to play. Yeah. Find the spark of joy, engage with that spark, and hopefully that'll affect the whole.
I love that because I think that's a mentality thing on the whole. It's with anything, life's going badly. What's the one thing that's going well for you? Like I usually use the example of your car's broken down on the drive. Very people are like, oh, my car's going to cost money. I can't go anywhere. There's always a flip on that. There's always a flip. You could have broken down on your own, 1,000 miles from home, pissing it down with rain. Phone was dead, etc., etc., etc. No coat. It could have been a lot worse. And it's finding that positive, or as you said, that one note that helps you to look at something in a different way, because it's all about tricking your mind. It's the whole uh 1 minute, 2 minute rule. Instead of saying, oh, I'm going to do an hour and a half at the gym, say, like, I'm just going to do 2 minutes worth of press ups, and you'll end
Hmm.
up doing the hour anyway because you've tricked your mind into looking at it in a different way.
Yeah, yeah. You learn, or you do something that I actually really love doing. I like to put the thing that I love to do last, so that I get through all the things that I hate doing.
Ooh,
And
eat the frog.
what is it?
Eat the frog.
Tell me more.
They say eat the frog, like do the hardest thing in the morning, eat the frog, because then if everything else is good after that.
I like that. Everything else is gravy. Everything else is easy. Yeah, eat the frog.
So how did you get to this position? Because as with anyone in life, they go through a whole journey and they find themselves in a place. Have you always wanted to do music? Have you always had the idea of doing an app, whatever, or was it just sort of come about in the ether as life sort of pushes us into different avenues?
It was very, I think, circumstantial. And it was just the flow of my creativity, I think, that took me here. I feel, again, really lucky to be able to have followed my creativity for the majority of my life. And that's what's made me money. I came out here to LA to be an actor. Music was always a part of my life. I was always really good at it. Um, and but I never really wanted to make my living off of playing piano. I never even thought about that as an opportunity. I brought my upright piano with me from Chicago. I I shipped it out here along with all my other stuff, and so I have it. I've always had it since I'm 11 years ago. Right, I moved out here, and so the first five were very much focused, trying to be the actor. Right, I did 360 something, maybe 70 something auditions my first year, and I booked five. I booked five jobs. Talk about failure, right? If you don't enjoy the process of acting, or if you
Wow.
don't enjoy the process of the craft, right, then you're screwed because you're being told no constantly. Okay, it's not about the validation at that point. No, it's about the enjoyment of the craft. And by golly, I acting is my biggest love. That's my deepest love. Music, I'm better at it, but it's not my biggest love. Acting absolutely is. And so I was able to do that for 5 years. I got a waiting job at a restaurant I served, and I was able to actually do that for 5 years. I wasn't able to make my living off of it, which was a little bit of a downer. I will tell you that. By the end of 5 years, I got really down on myself, saying like, man, it's such a shame. I wish I could do this every single day, in and out. But along with acting and a lot of other crafts, if you want to make it a profession, you have to wait for the gatekeepers to tell you yes, or you just do the thing and you really really love it with your friends. You just start making little bits, or you put on a concert in a park or something like that. You do it with your friends, and it doesn't make you any money. And by golly, I was doing that. I was making all these sketches with my friends. We were putting them out every other week. We were doing the whole process, and I was very much enjoying it. But at the end of the day, I was still dirt poor, and I was not happy about that. I was, mid 20s, being like, I don't see how this can become my livelihood anytime soon. So my wife was like, why don't you go play piano? You've been doing it your entire life. Why don't you go try to play piano? And so I was like, all right. So I did. And I'm lucky to say that after 3 months, I was able to actually make a living off of playing piano. I got my first accompaniment job at an after school program for musical theater students. I got a background jazz gig at a restaurant. I got another background jazz gig at a restaurant. And then I got my piano bar residency. And so those 4 gigs, that sustained me. And that made more money than I did at my serving job. And so I quit my serving job and I did that full time, along with acting as well. Like, I still have my agents. I still have my agents, and I still go out for jobs, but that became my life. And I feel very, very lucky and honored to be able to say that I have made my living off of playing piano for the past 6 years, right? Outside of COVID times, of course, but that's still the case, right? And so during one of those days, I was just kind of bored, and I was thinking, well, look, I'm a professional pianist. Like, what if there's a way to kind of port over the way that I taught myself how to play into an app, right? Like, what if we can teach this sort of like iterative, bite-sized chunks, flow state, just-in-time learning sort of thing? Like, instead of using rote memorization of songs, there's got to be another way. And so I started figuring this out and thinking about it, and I brought it over to a good friend of mine, Stephen Gizzy, and he was like, Pat, I've literally thought about the same thing. And I think sight reading can be the engine of the curriculum. And you were using improvisation. We can use sight reading, and we can generate music that's novel. And it always is changing and adapting to how you're playing. And we can generate that using AI, or at least an algorithm or something like that. We can teach it how to write music in a in a creative way, in a musical way. And I'm like, whoa, that's the long term of the idea. I had just the short term minimum viable product, a sight reading trainer that teaches you the basics. Right. And so we kind of came together and we fleshed out the whole app together. And then we were like, whoa, this is amazing. So we spent hours and hours and hours and weeks and weeks and weeks just discussing it, came up with this whole Bible that was like 75 pages of all the features that we wanted to make just for fun, just because we really enjoyed it. And we were like, well, what are we going to do with this next? And we were like, let's go find money. And so we were like, cool, let's go find money. We had a couple meetings with venture capitalist firms. And they're like, guys, this is a really cool idea. This is game changing. This is like like this will be great if you. But question though, have you guys ever made anything before? And we were like, no. I've made short films. I've made sketches with friends. And Stephen Gizzy's like I've written. I've composed for Cartoon Network and the Lego series, and like he's a very good composer and he's a music teacher on the side. And they're like, no, it's a software. Have you ever made a piece of software before? And we're like, no, we haven't. And they're like, okay, go make the minimum viable product. Go do that, figure out how to do that, and then come back to us and let's see how it did. Let's see how you did it. Okay. And if it's good, then we'll start talking about money. All right. And so that's what we did. We just started going out. We just put that into the ether saying, hey, we'd like to find software engineers that can come on for equity for the company. And we thought about it, and eventually, and we were very, very lucky to find two incredible engineers. One of them showed up at a gig of mine. I was playing background jazz at this restaurant, and he was there playing piano before my shift was to start. And I'm like, wait a sec, who is this guy? Right. And he told me he lives down the street and he loves to come on in and play here on occasion. And they feed him sometimes, but they don't pay him. They just feed him, and like people like it. You know, he was very, very good. He was playing this beautiful classical music. And I'm like, well, do you want to go back and forth? Do you want to like trade songs, and you play a song, I'll play a song, you play a song, I play a song? He's like, absolutely. That sounds great. Let's do it. We get to talking. Turns out the guy is a software engineer. Turns out he's a classically trained pianist. I butter him up. I buy him dinner. I show him MuseFlow's pitch deck. A week later, he texts me and he says, Pat, I can't stop thinking about MuseFlow. And I'm like, let's talk. He was our first co-founder. He was our first technical co-founder.
It's
Stuff
mad.
like that. Like, it's crazy. It really just kind of like flowed. And it's one of those things you put it out in the ether and you say, hey, I want to do this thing. And maybe you don't even actually activate, like you don't actuate on the thing, but it just starts happening. You got to follow those things, you know?
Agree. It's the whole Marcus Aurelius. I think it's Marcus Aurelius, but the Stoics in general. It's like don't wish for life to happen as you want it to. Wish for it happen. Wish for it to happen as it does, and you'll be happy. And it's the whole synchronicity thing. It's like you might have wanted to be an
Synchronicity, yeah.
actor or whatever, and you know you've gone down this path, but somehow out of kind of nowhere from what you've explained or out of what I've said to you first of all and something you've been doing in the background and all of this other stuff sort of opened up. I'm a massive believer in synchronicities and things sort of pushing you down a path and things aligning for you that you couldn't even have foreseen.
No.
Like people always say, and I'm one for that as well. You know, make a plan. You want to make a plan. Like, you want to write a book, or what's it going to be about? A basic plan. But sometimes other things happen that sort of derail that, and it's actually a better plan than what you had come up with.
Yeah,
You should
right.
always make a plan at first, but it's weird how things work.
It so is. And you're so right. Like, have the plan. You know, we had a plan. We had the plan of going out and finding money right away. You know, we had the plan of sitting down every single day for like 3-4 weeks together and sitting down, not every day, but like at least once or twice a week, sitting down and actually coming up with the ideas for MuseFlow and the whole concept for the app. You know, we were doing that because we very much enjoyed the process of debating the different features and what is best for the student or what is best for the user. You know, we kept the conversation was the reason why we kept doing it in the first place, because we very much enjoyed the process of fleshing out the app. Yes, of course, in the back of our mind, it was, you know, the goal was always there. You know, we're doing it so that we can pitch this to VCs so we can get money. Yes, of course, you know, but we of course didn't know that they were going to say build the thing first and then come back to us. We had no idea. So that in a way that derailed us, but it didn't stop us. We were in the process of looking for software engineers. We just didn't know where to go. And we were incredibly lucky that they just showed up in our lives when we put that intention out.
It's the obstacle is the way. That's the
The
obstacle. You've got to,
obstacle is the way. Oh my God, talk more about this. That sounds amazing.
it's again Stoic philosophy. It's that
Cool.
the whole point in Stoicism is to help you to look at things in a way that helps you to overcome things and just keep moving forward, basically. So the obstacle, most people like look see the obstacle and they just stop doing stuff. They're like too scared, whatever. They say the obstacle is the way. If there's an obstacle, just you have to work out how to get around it, or it's going to push you into a different path, or whatever else it may be. And that's the beauty of Stoicism, I think, is it helps to give you a mind frame that you're not bothered by anything. And I don't mean that in a sort of morose way where you're depressed and you have got no emotion. It's more in the way that helps you to cope with the things in life that you can't control.
Hmm.
Like it's like it's
Interesting.
to be like the rock that the waves keep crashing over, the raging of the sea falls still around it. If you ever seen a film where there's a rock in the middle of the ocean, the waves, and it's like it's not bothered, it's getting smashed by these waves, and it's still just chilling there
Yeah.
like the rock. And that's how we have to be. You might, because at the end of the day, what you went through, someone could have been stressed and suicidal. Oh my God, my acting career is not working out. Oh my God, my I'm gonna have to stay at this job forever. Oh, we didn't get the funding. Oh, and be all stressed out, biting their hair. And
Mm.
things work out in the end. And coming back to what we said before, micro, macro, just understanding that things are going to work out. You can't always foresee how it will, but life's easy and life makes sense in hindsight.
It really does, doesn't it? Yeah.
All we have to do is focus on the 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 window at the front of the car and not the rear view mirror because
Mm.
that's why it's 5 times bigger.
It's also, I think I'm also really, I guess, I don't want to say lucky because I did set up my life like this, right? Where my needs were met, my creativity was being fulfilled. And then this is all on top of that. Okay. We talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? My needs were being met at that point. All right. I was being creatively fulfilled. I was creatively fulfilled every single day because I was playing piano, and I didn't realize that that could still be my creative outlet. Right. The problem with acting, of course, is that you have to be told, yes, you're the right person. Let's go do your craft. Right. And let's create something. And then you feel creatively fulfilled. It's very gatekeepery. Right. Or you just do it every single day with your friends and it's great, but it's not making a lot of money. Right. And so it was one of these kind of catch 22s where you're like, I want to spend every single day that I want to do playing piano. I'm sorry, acting. I want to do that every single day, but I still need to make money. Right. And so I was able to kind of find that beautiful balance of making money and still being creatively fulfilled by doing piano. I didn't know that that was even possible until my wife said, go try it. Right. And so, I'm lucky to say that my needs were met. And so all of this stuff was gravy on top of it. It's all just kind of like fun and play for me on top of it. I think there's a huge issue here with there's a disconnect between the people that have and the people that don't have. The people that have don't realize that not having is life or death. It is fight or flight. Your anxiety level is so insanely high. Even when you don't have, your needs are met, your needs aren't being met. Okay. Or you're living so incredibly close to check. We recognize how incredibly disorienting that actually is. So I'm very lucky to be able to say that my needs were being met. My anxiety level was extremely low. Thus, I was able to play on top of that, you know?
Well, it's awesome because you've had to use your initiative, as you said. Your needs are being met, and you're asking the questions of how I can elevate myself up Maslow's hierarchy of needs to
Mm-hmm.
self-actualization, which is, I believe, at the top.
Self-actualization, that's at the top. It's funny, I actually don't know the whole the whole hierarchy. All I know is like, if your needs aren't being met, like we know what the needs are. The needs are food, water,
Food,
shelter,
shelter, and then
you know,
relationships and
relationships, you know. And for me, creative fulfillment was a part of my needs. I needed that as well. And so once all of those were met, then I was able to kind of work on my wants. But I wasn't thinking like that. You know, that's of course not how my mind was like actually operating here. It's just I was really lucky one day that I was bored. Boredom's also a beautiful byproduct of having all your needs met and having free time, right? And so I was just bored one day and my mind wandered into thinking, well, if I could do it, maybe other people can. So, you know, it's an interesting thing in my opinion. It's yes, it was initiative. Yes, of course. I wanted to do these things. I set up the conversations with my co-founder and we created a company from scratch. You know, we built this from the ground up after having 70, 80 hours of conversations that we recorded about MuseFlow and writing the Bible. Yes, of course. All of that takes initiative. But we were doing it for the process. We were doing it because we enjoyed the process of conversing and debating about the features and the ethos of the app and the look of the app. We talked it all out because we enjoyed the process of talking it out, you know? I just think it's like, if you're not enjoying the process, then, and it's all a battle, one battle after another, not to quote the movie, but if it's always you're hitting roadblocks, I am kind of in this mindset of like, well, if you're constantly hitting roadblocks here and they're completely derailing your mind and you can't move forward, maybe this isn't something that you should be pursuing. Because again, I look back at the journey of MuseFlow and I'm like, man, like they weren't massive roadblocks. I was enjoying the process of doing this and things kept happening, even though we put the intentions out there, and we did get derailed when VCs said, no, we're not going to give you money, you know, go find technical co-founders to create this with you and then build it. Like, yes, that was a massive derailing, but I wasn't discouraged. I don't know. I find that maybe there's a beautiful balance that we kind of need to feel here, right? Between the roadblocks happening and feeling discouraged, right? If you feel utterly discouraged by a roadblock or multiple roadblocks in a row, look, I went on thousands and thousands and thousands of auditions during the 5 years that I was acting for the majority of my life, right? I went on thousands and thousands of auditions and I constantly was being told no to. That did wear on me after a while. It did. That's why I was getting a little depressed after 5 years. I can't say that it wasn't. It absolutely was wearing on me. So there were just so many roadblocks that happened over and over and over. And I had to say, maybe this isn't my path. I had to pivot. And so, you know, I think that there's a balance there, you know?
there's a fine line though, isn't there,
There's a
between
fine line. Yeah.
there is, you know, like some people say, oh, just be persistent, keep knocking on the door, keep knocking on the door until it opens. And the other
Right.
side of the coin is if you keep doing the same thing and it's not working, it's just idiocy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
So
insanity. Yeah.
yeah, insanity. That's the word. Yeah, exactly. So it's because the thing with a lot of these life rules is they are contradictory, a lot of them, and you can apply one to any situation a lot of the time and say, oh yeah, look, see this because I've written one of the books I've written is about quotes, and one of the caveats I'll say at the start is there will be some um
Contradictions.
contradictions, exactly the word I was looking for, thank you. Yeah, contradictions, because some are saying this is the way, and but at every time in your life there's that phrase will be the right thing for you to hear at that point in time. I
Yeah.
mean, there's not
Totally.
massive
Totally.
contradictions, but sometimes it's just something someone says to you that completely helps you flip the script. So like what you said, your wife said, you probably not thought about that, and you're like, boom, it's like a slap on the face, and it's like you as soon as you heard it. So some things when people tell you you hear it differently. It's like it goes through your ear and it sort of jumbles in your mind for a bit. And
Yeah.
it's like it was always going to be said to you.
Right.
I don't know if you feel that about
I
what was
kind of
said.
do. Yeah. Sometimes I definitely feel that. Yeah. Where you're like, oh man, somebody was inevitably going to tell me this, you know?
It's like the whole messenger thing, isn't it? People say, "Oh, people tell you stuff, and it's like messages you need to hear because you can't see it yourself a lot of the
You're so
time.
right though that like these quotes that we get. I mean, I've seen it before, like literally on my Instagram, right? I go through my stories and I look at a friend and they post a quote about pursuing life at its fullest and trying to like actuate on your life, right? And I think about the context of like where they're at, and they're actually not that most like they're not the most like actually actuating person. Like they're a little more passive than I probably think. And so they're posting this quote because it's an affirmation to themselves. They need to put this out
Yeah.
there into the world and say, like, I want to actuate on this. I want to think like this, right? And then literally the next quote from another person, right? I swipe and I find my next friend, their stories. And their story is you got to relax. You got to let life wash over you, and you've got to just pause sometimes and not get stressed about having to move forward, right? And that's another quote from them. And I'm like, well, I think about them, and they're like constantly go 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 go. They're constantly actuating on their life. They're constantly making decisions and changing things and adjusting and pivoting and like moving forward constantly to the point of absolute just exhaustion. I'm like, well, of course those quotes make sense for both of those different people. But you look at them right after one another and they can be contradictory, you know?
Well, exactly. And this is the thing. Like, number one is the projection side. Is like you projecting something by putting up a certain quote, as you said. Maybe they need to see that. Maybe they are that thing. Whatever. But yeah, as you said, it's funny when you see it side by side
Yeah.
because they are literally contradictory. One saying be a go-getter, go and get it, and the other is saying just relax and let things happen. And that's the beauty of actually a lot of these quotes that have got wisdom
Mhm.
because there's always a right time to hear something.
That's totally it. It's the right time, it's the right person. Sometimes it's even the right time, the right person, and the right person's telling that there's another person, because sometimes, I don't know, like I don't know if you notice this, but sometimes like I personally cannot give advice to certain friends because they don't hear it. But I can give advice to other friends because the way I say it, however it may be, who I am, they're very open and receptive and they're asking for my feedback. And so they're hearing it with an open mind. But some people just like you don't communicate that way with, and that's okay, you know, or they're literally never even asking for advice, and that's okay. Like, you know, unsolicited advice is the worst thing in the world, in my opinion. And so I I I think it also has to do with like the right person is telling you at the right time this certain thing, or you're receiving that information from online. The interweb is pushing that to you at the right time. You know, yeah,
It's the whole Solomon's paradox, though, isn't it? As well that people think, oh, well, who are you to tell me fallacies and stuff? But Solomon's paradox, he was the best guy at giving advice, but his life was shit because he
interesting.
because he couldn't deal with it himself, if that makes sense. But he was he give you the best advice in the world, but his life was awful. He would tell you relationship advice, awesome, awesome, and it's always going to be the right thing, but he couldn't do it himself. And that's what I think a lot of people struggle with is giving advice to themselves that they would give to other people.
Mm, yeah, at that point, it's like follow what I say, not what I do, right? And in that point, it's words speak louder than actions. But then, of course, I
Yeah.
think actions speak louder than words. That's kind of I guess, the thing that we always are telling ourselves. So yeah, interesting. I love that. I find that interesting. it there are people that give you advice that is like, oh damn, that's exactly what I needed to hear at that point. But then you think about that person and you're like, well, they don't follow that advice. Interesting.
Talking about advice, what advice would you give to someone using the app? How could they get use it in the best way to get to the goal that they want to, or does it depend on the goal that they are aiming for?
Totally depends on the goal. We have people that are using the app for a means of meditation. Like two people in particular that come to mind. Okay, they've successfully beaten our unit 1, and we haven't developed. We're in the middle of developing unit 2 right now. Unit 1 is 27 levels though. Interactive tutorials and sight reading indefinitely, like playing each tier, each level. You gotta, there's just indefinite music in every single one of those tiers and levels. So it's always novel, it's always new. Then there's 103 songs that get unlocked within unit 1. So there's all this stuff that you can do, right? But we have people that have completed unit 1. We do. And I'm like, but I see them. I see their data because we can see their play data on our end. Not to be creepy, but it's awesome. And I see them constantly playing level 26 over and over and over. We got level 0. And so the end of it is 26, right? So in total, 27 levels, but the last level is 26. I see them constantly playing the last tier of level 26, which is the hardest tier. It's 14 notes. It's polyphony, which means you're playing multiple notes at one time. And so you're constantly moving around the piano, really being agile, and you have to be really, really good to be able to play that. And so they've successfully mastered all of the skills that are necessary up to that point, and they're constantly playing this last tier. And they do it for days on 30 minutes every single day at the exact same time. So I'm like, wait, what's up with this? So I email them and I'm like, what's going on, man? Like, you've successfully beaten our unit 1. Why are you still a subscriber? And why do you keep playing this one level at the exact same time every day for 30 minutes? What's going on? I'm so curious what your pattern is here and why you're doing this. These two people in particular, they said the same thing. They said, my life is very stressful. I have a very hard time working. I have a very hard job. They didn't tell me what they do, but apparently it's very difficult and it's very stressful. And then they have a home with their family and their partners, right? And they need a way to bridge that gap between a very difficult work and then their home, right? They have never been able to find a way to bridge that gap. And they use MuseFlow now. They use it as a sort of meditation, as a way to forget their work, to become present in the moment and focus on the task at hand. They just need to play the music. That's all they need to do. And so they do that for 30 minutes, being in that flow state, being focused on the task at hand. It calms them, it relaxes them, it lowers their heart rate, and then they can be present with their family. And so I'm like, that's amazing. That's so cool that MuseFlow can be used like that. Then we also have people that are, a couple 8-year-olds that are using it with their teacher, their music teacher, right? Their music teacher wanted to use MuseFlow as a sight reading trainer. And so they have them using that. They have another teacher in India that's using it with their 4 or 5 different students of all different age ranges and difficulty of levels of ability, right? We have people that are solely using this to learn songs, okay? So they, as intended, learn the core concepts through sight reading and then apply the skills that they've learned in the sight reading to the songs itself. And so we've got that as well. We've got people that just want to sight read. We've got people that just want to learn repertoire. We've got so many different reasons of use here that, like, this was also very important to us, that we kind of wanted to make this useful for so many different cases, right? We wanted to make this open world, but we also wanted to make a campaign mode. We wanted to kind of mesh the two. I don't know if you've ever played Zelda Breath of the Wild, or like Witcher 3 or something like that. Like
And 64.
And 64. Breath of the Wild it's Nintendo Switch.
Oh,
The
okay.
way that I played it.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's very open world and also campaign mode. You can do whatever you want to in this world, right? But you can also follow the campaign. We wanted to do both. And so we kind of meshed them together. And so we see a lot of use cases come out of that. It's quite beautiful, in my opinion.
I like the example of the meditation thing because music can be used to change your state very easily. Some music can be upbeat, like I listen to certain songs before I go on and fight for judo.
Mm,
I listen to other songs in the morning before I go on a hike because it's more relaxing. Ludovico Einaudi, Hans Zimmer, people like that. But I wouldn't
nice.
put that on before I fought because
Right.
the state would be completely different. It's not the state that I would want. Before you go on a night out, you can listen to upbeat songs to get you ready to go out and have a good time. So it's amazing that the music can do that, and that's just on a consumption basis. That's me consuming the music.
Mhm.
on a production basis, it must be even more aligned with your feelings and emotions, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I find that very interesting. And I agree. I think that music performance and music consumption are, there's so many different contexts to where you'd like to perform music versus the way that you'd like to, and also same thing with consumption, same thing with production. You're not wrong. Like digital audio workspaces right now, there's so many different of that. They're called DAWs, right? And you've got Logic Pro, you've got Ableton Live, you've got Sibelius, like you've got all of these different avenues for us to be able to write music and compose music. You just got to find the right software that works with your kind of vibe, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and so I think that's also one of those things. It's like it's the same thing with MuseFlow. It's like you got to find the right app that works for you. You know, if you want the traditional method of learning how to play an instrument, great. Go find Musician. Go find Flowkey. They're really good at what they do. They're very good at what they do. But if that type of learning failed for you when you were younger, or you simply want to tap into flow state and you don't necessarily need to like learn an instrument, but maybe that's the vehicle that you chose and you just need the right engine, then maybe MuseFlow is for you. You know, you got to
I
find the
think
right sort of method.
I think that's the thing with today's day and age is that there's so much variety out there with everything. It's like instead of just being,
Option
well, this is
fatigue for sure.
yeah, and you can find exactly what it is that you want. Paint colors, probably 30 years ago, there was 10 paint colors. Now you can take something in a t-shirt and go, look, make me a paint that's this color. There's infinite colors, there's infinite apps, there's infinite ways that you can do this and do that, different ways to learn, audiobooks, podcasts, whatever. And I think that's really the good thing about today is that there's going to be people who like learning in the way that you guys set up your app. And that's awesome.
Yeah. And there are, we're very lucky to say that we just passed a wonderful threshold. We're able to now, our operational costs are now being covered by subscriptions. So we didn't go look for money after we brought on those technical co-founders. We just started building, and we enjoyed building it so much together that we just kept doing it. Next year, later this year. Wow, it's 2026 already. Later this year, we're going to start looking for actual money so that we can scale faster. But
Of
we've been
course.
really lucky to be able to say that 2 years have gone by and we have loved building this together. Yes, of course, there's been roadblocks. Of course, there have been bumps in the road. But at the end of the day, we're all good friends still, and we're able to continue working on this together, and we're all finding so much joy and gratification from it. We're very lucky that way.
So is that the plan to continue to build on the app, or is there other projects that are sort of aligned with MuseFlow that are coming out, or is that too secret to say?
There are elements of MuseFlow that we did not expect to build, but have kind of been born from the process of building this thing that we know that are deeply beneficial to the user. Because number one, I mean, like our domain expertise is pretty darn high, right? I'm a professional pianist, and my co-founder is a professional piano teacher, right? And so we've got kind of both the sides of the aisle here, right? Covered the performance and the teaching. And so we know the students, we know what they need, we know what would be deeply beneficial and really gratifying. Also, what the industry itself has not produced yet. We know what those technologies are. And so when an idea has been brought to us by either an early adopter, one of our users, or one of our technical co-founders has brought an idea to us that we did not even think about for a second, but we know is extremely valuable and beneficial to the users, to our prospective users and our current users, we've jumped on it. There are a couple internal tools that we're building right now that was not on our game plan, but is exciting and is going to be deeply beneficial to our users in the future.
But it's mad, isn't it, though, when you go down a path because of the way that you think or the situation that you're in at this point, you don't even know the decisions that you're going to make later on. But at that
Heck
point,
no.
it's the right decision to make. It's the things that you know that you don't know, and then there's things that you don't know that you don't know.
Yeah, yeah. The unknown unknowns.
Yeah,
Yeah,
unknown
totally.
unknowns. And at that point, you couldn't even fathom. that would be the right decision to make at that point. And that's the beauty of starting a project, watching it unfold, and you're picking paths left and right, left and right, left and right, left and right, all the way through. And that's the beauty of development, both of whatever you are creating, but also yourself as an individual.
Absolutely. You got to have, we think about it in terms of like the two different development methods here, right? We've got what is called waterfall, which is you start at the top and you think about the whole plan. You got it all specced out and you think about every single feature that you got, right? That you want to build. And it waterfalls down from there. You build, you build, you build, you build until you've completed the entire thing, right? So that's called waterfall method. The agile method, on the other hand, is what's your one core concept you want to build, your minimum viable product, and let's splinter it from there. Let's be agile and adapt to what our customers need and what our customers want. And we slowly continue to build with, of course, no, you slowly continue to build until there's nothing else to build, or you just keep on building, building, building. You're agile. You can pivot quickly. We build something and we push it out into the app very quickly, literally within days, right? And so you're like, okay, that's a really cool idea. There are two different methods of building here. We've kind of combined the both, right? We've got the waterfall methodology, which is we have our 72-page Bible that we're following. But if something happens in the moment that is too difficult to build, or if something happens in the moment where we realize, oh, maybe this is even more beneficial, or maybe this is much more beneficial than what we wanted to build first, we pivot, we adjust, we become agile. Right. And so we're kind of combining the two ideas. I do wonder if that's the case with writing as well. You have a whole plan for a book. You want to hit this point, hit this point, hit this point, and eventually you culminate it to this climax and you finish the story off at that point. But I no doubt believe, and my wife's a writer too. She's a comedy writer. She writes for TV and film. And so it happens all the time with her, where she writes the story up to a point and she's at a point right now where she wanted to continue where she was going, but is realizing that what's more effective is actually something else, or she
Yeah.
wanted to go down another road. I'm assuming it happens with you too.
There's planners and there's pantsers or whatever it's called. Planners literally will plan the whole thing out, the scenes, the arc, the characters, everything. And there's others that are literally they sit down, they start writing, and they allow the characters to see what happens. And both can be successful. J.K. Rowling was a planner. She'd already written by the end of her second book or the start of the second book, she'd already written the end of the seventh so that she
Mm-hmm.
knew where she was aiming for.
Yep,
And
I've heard that
Stephen
too.
King, who we talked about earlier off air, he sort of just writes. I mean,
Yeah.
you've got an idea to an extent, but you're not planning out exactly what's going to happen. You sort of see. I'm a little bit in the middle. I sort of plan. Well, I've only written two novels anyway. Um,
Oh yeah. Only.
no, no, sorry. Well, it's a novella anyway, because it's only 50,000. It's a prison
That's
story.
5 hours of an audiobook, dude. That's
Yeah, true,
amazing.
true. And then the other one's a kid's book. But I
Oh,
found
very
the
cool.
same thing. So I had the general plan, but at each sort of I don't know if you want to say at each point, but there's certain points in the book where because you're writing, you're like, what I thought about, I've thought of something better now because you're in your head, you're in the film. And you're like, well, or the book, whatever you want to call it, but it's going on in your head, and you're like, actually, this is going to be a better way to do it. And in some cases, I've had to go back and change stuff, just a
Totally.
couple of details to make that more relevant and make sense. So that's really fucking annoying. I've got to tell you that
I bet it is.
because you have to go back and you have to, and it's not like you can just press Control F because it's not like
No,
a word.
right.
You have to.
Yeah.
In some cases, it is because one word can help you find where you are, but you've got to scroll fucking back through your page, and you're like, "Oh my God, it's so annoying, it's so annoying." And then there's other parts where you've not even put in chapters yet. You might have put in the first three chapters because that might be easy. It's the middle that's hard because the middle's like the middle. It's a lot of things going on, and you might have written 15 pages without chapters and 15
Mm,
A4 pieces on Word, not 15 pages of a little book. And you're like,
right.
oh my God, where was that bit? And you're scrolling past and it's but I've found ways to sort of stop that happening as much, I suppose. But I'm only two novels in because I obviously wrote three non-fiction, which was in line with obviously the podcasts and the courses and the coaching side of things. But as you said, I didn't go out thinking I'm going to write a novel. It's a pivot. Wrote three non-fiction. I thought, do you know what? How hard would it be to write a novel? In fact, it's very fucking hard. It's harder than non.
Yeah.
It's much harder. You've got to do all the character arcs. You've got to do the hero's journey and whatever.
Huge. Yeah.
You've got all like character names. You have to remember the details, times of the day. How you? It's actually really hard, but it's a challenge, and you have to push the comfort zone.
Yep.
Now, I mean, now you're like, you know what? Tomorrow I could do another rap at some point because I've done it.
Yeah.
But at the
Yeah.
first time, it's like, fuck, I don't know if I could do it. And now you're at a point where you know you can do it. You could probably
Yes.
do something different, something in the same sort of space. You don't know, but you've had that experience now
Mhm.
of doing it, and it was very much the same for me as well in that space.
That's so cool, man. My wife talks exactly the same way too. She's like, it's a puzzle. It's a puzzle. I come up with a whole nother like thing that I want this character to do, and it's much better than what I spec'd out. And then I've got to change the whole story to fit that, just to make sure that each little puzzle piece actually aligns with that or builds to that or makes sense with that. Yeah, she's got to go back and rewrite constantly because she's writing it as she's going, but she's revising as she's writing. It's this crazy annoying process that I can only imagine. Oh man, yeah. It sounds extremely frustrating. It really
But
does. But it
but
also
it's
sounds very gratifying though too.
it's to an extent, but as like you said earlier, sometimes you're in flow state, and like I wrote like 1,200 words the other day, just bosh, because it was that it's coming towards the climax of the book now. So that like it's a lot of the other stuff that's hard, like in the middle and setting the scene and stuff that can be quite difficult.
Mhm.
But other days I'm struggling to write 400 words. And I don't mean struggle, but it's taking a bit longer, and I'm actually having to think about it, and it's not just. And then I'm like, oh shit, I've just written 600 words. And now I try to go through every 250, 300 words, go back and just review that quickly. Because
Nice.
otherwise, you'll end up 1,200 and you'd have to go back and it takes too long. So I
Yeah.
tried to do it in shorter blocks and provide a little bit more detail. Because sometimes what happens, I think, is that you just want to get out the quick outline of the scene. But then you're like, oh, I need a few more words in here. I think I need a bit more description of this room. And I find that better than doing it in much larger blocks, but everyone
Yeah.
works differently, I suppose. But it's like we were saying earlier with, or
Yeah.
you mentioned, Stephen King just wants to write 6 pages a day, he said.
Yeah. Pretty crazy, right?
I'm the same. I just want to write 400, 500 words, that's it. At the end of the
Wow.
day, the book will be made itself. Or let's use your app as an example. Half an hour a day, a year or two, level 8 piano or whatever level it's going to be, depending
Yeah.
on your speed of learning or whatever. And you can play that Mozart song you like, or that Ludovico Einaudi song, or that Hans Zimmer Gladiator soundtrack, whatever it is
Yeah.
that you like, or some Michael Jackson, Billie Jean.
Yeah.
It's your choice,
Seriously.
isn't it?
Totally your choice. And ideally, you've enjoyed the process of simply playing and learning and growing. That's, of course, the goal in any sort of like educational technology sort of realm, in my opinion. At least our goal is to make the learning, make the act of learning something new, make that incredibly enjoyable and gratifying. That's the goal, right? So that you become a lifelong learner. So that the goal isn't to, of course, play that song. Granted, of course, that's going to be your goal, but maybe you get lost in the process of learning. And isn't that beautiful? I find that beautiful.
Yeah, 100%. And I'd actually love to learn piano. Now, as an adult, as a child, I was like, oh, I don't want to learn it. This is boring. But now that I actually like a lot of that music, it would be quite good to learn it. So, but it's the time thing as well, isn't it? But it's also
Totally.
making time.
Yeah,
It's
man.
I suppose there's no such thing as not having the time. It's not making the time.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. I think we decide what we want to pursue. We have control of our time. We do. And it just depends on if you want to pursue something or not. If you want to make the time or not, totally up to you. Totally up to you.
So if someone did want to make the time, where do they find the app? Where do they reach you? Where do they start the journey, essentially?
Just go to our website, museflow.ai. Make sure you're using the Chrome browser if you want to start playing. You can start your free trial right from there. It's on the web. It's a web app, right? And so you use it through the browser. And if you're on an iPad, though, we've got the iPad app out. So go to museflow.ai on the, or just look up MuseFlow in the App Store. Find it there. I'd love to give your listeners and you, if ever you want to start pursuing learning how to play, I'd love to give you guys a coupon code if you want it.
Do it.
Yeah, let's call it Vancrux 50. Let's call it
Vancrux
that.
50. We'll add it in the
Vancrux.
we'll add it in the notes as well.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, great. And I'll make it right after we finish recording
Yeah,
this. So it'll be
awesome.
live in a second. So it'll get you 50% off for life of any subscription that you want, monthly, 3 months, or annual. You just put that in when you hit the paywall. You'll put it in there's a little thing that says got a coupon code, right? You click that, you put it on in, you press submit. It will adjust the prices for you. It's 50% off for life. And so if you want to learn how to play piano, if you want to learn, or if you simply just want to learn, right? We have some users that aren't interested in necessarily learning how to play piano itself, but they very much enjoy the process that we've set up here, right? This flow inducing, this meditative, this like getting you focused on the present. There's no app that does that, in my opinion, and according to them. I'm not just saying this, right? That does it better than MuseFlow. And so Vancrux 50 will get you 50% off if you want to explore.
And even if you don't, maybe you want to gift it to your child or your brother or sister who you know wants to get started.
Yeah. And shoot me an email if you want to create like a little gift card for them. We don't have that option on our website yet, but I'm happy to take care of that for you. I'll create a specific gift card that has a specific coupon code with your name on it, and it gives them a discount code. It gives them a discount, or it gives them a certain amount of months for free, something like that. We'll set that up for you. Yeah.
Awesome. One final question then. What's your favorite song to play on the piano? Or who's your favorite artist or something like that?
I have a couple right now, favorite songs to play. And it's weird and I don't know why they're constantly being asked at my piano bar in the past 2 weeks. I've had both of these requests happen more than once on every day that I've played. Two of them is so random and they're so different. And this is why I love music, right? But I can totally find the joy in both of these songs. 3005 by Childish Gambino.
Yeah, tune.
Yeah, love that song. It's also really interesting to play because you're playing triplets on it. Dun, 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 dun. And you're rapping over the top of that. And so it's very weird to be able to like do that at the same time. There's a cognitive dissonance that happens, but I've found it and I've been able to perform that pretty well, in my opinion. And
That's like
they
a
love
good
it and I love it. So
it's a good
yeah,
pre-night out song, isn't it?
it is. Yeah, totally. And then the other one is, this is again very weird, but I'm obsessed with it, and I think I could tell you why, but it'll take way too long to describe why. But One Last Time by Ariana Grande. One last time, I need
I know the one.
thee. Yeah. Don't know why. Couldn't tell you. Well, no, I can tell you. I've already done this. We were driving back from Reno, Nevada down to Los Angeles after Christmas, me and my wife, and we put it on, and I went down a solid 25 minutes of me explain. And she was like, why do you love this song? Why do you like playing it so much? And I had to like dissect it, but I was able to pinpoint at least 4 or 5 different things that I find the spark of joy in that song and why I really love it. And it's most of the time when a lyric lines up with the accompaniment, or the accompaniment says something about what they're saying. So it adds more depth or it adds more subtext, right? Oftentimes that's usually what I really love, is when the music shows a level of depth that the lyrics on the surface don't necessarily do. I love it when music does that. So yeah, those are the 2 songs. I don't know why.
But
It's such a weird thing, but yeah.
it's awesome though you said that because it's like with anything. If I say to you about judo, oh, I love Koshiguruma, and you get him off balance and you smash him on the floor, that doesn't mean
Yeah.
anything to you. But for people who know judo, they get that. And for me, what you just said is I understood what you said, but for someone who actually plays the piano or plays music, it's gonna be like, oh my God, what Patrick said, that's exactly what I feel. It's weird because there's a level of understanding that you only get once you understand something enough to get that point, if that makes sense. It's
Mm.
weird.
It is weird, isn't it? I can understand why you would enjoy that move, but I don't necessarily know the context of that move, right? Why is it different? Why do you like to do that in comparison to all the other moves that you can choose? And I'm assuming it depends on the context of the fight too. Maybe you only like that move in relation to the moves that you've done previously. And so of course there's nuance there, and of course there's context that I'm missing, but you can still understand the joy in its own right, right? Like you can get why
100%.
having accompaniment that adjusts the message of the lyrics subtextually and like viscerally and like emotionally, why that would be very gratifying to play, right? You get that, right?
100%. That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
I
And
get
I
that, but what I'm
understand
saying is,
why.
I will understand that. Is what I'm saying is, though, for someone who plays music, will understand that at a much deeper level than I will, because they will have experienced that exact thing. Even though I can understand it, and like you can understand the judo thing, I'll
Yeah,
throw someone, I
totally.
get it. But like you said about the nuance and actually having gone through that, it's amazing that that is how life is. Like the experience and the language of explaining something. You're like, oh, I had the same thing with my girlfriend last week. Her mother-in-law, and and you can have that little connection because you've both experienced exactly the same thing. Whereas a 14-year-old child, although they can understand how that may feel, they have not experienced that in a way that they're like, oh my God, that happened to me. I can totally get that. But that's the beauty of life, isn't it? Sharing these experiences.
So true. And understanding and having context for all of these experiences, I think, is also really cool. How cumulative life is like that.
Absolutely. But thanks, Patrick, for coming on the show. Awesome.
Dude,
So that's
thank you
gone
so much
hour
for
and a
having me.
half
This
gone
was a
already.
great conversation. Yeah, I had such a great time. So thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
And you didn't even stand up.
You're totally right. Uh, I don't. Okay, yeah. For anybody who's listening, like I said, he was like, is it Jivan or Jivan?
Either was fine.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Jivan was saying, it might be like an hour and a half, like maybe even 2 hours sometimes. And I'm like, man, I'm gonna have to like stand. I'm gonna have to move my desk up because I got a standing desk, right? And so I was like, I'm gonna have to stand up because I'm gonna get my legs are so tired. I just had a big workout yesterday, and my legs are killing me. And so I'm probably gonna have to stand up. But honestly, this entire conversation has been deeply engrossing, and I've been right there with you the entire time. And so thank you so
Love
much
it.
for having
Flow
me.
state right there.
Exactly. Yes.